So I think it is a very, very good morning today. I know if you attended yesterday's morning session, I said thank you for everyone for attending, because obviously you didn't have the late night and you set your alarm as well. So yeah, there's a similar situation this morning. But yeah, thanks everyone. So this morning we're going to kick off with Julian Fish. If you saw the other day, Julian is starting to head up our Octane portfolio, but was in his previous role the product manager for our release automation and release control and deployment automation portfolio. So Julian's going to talk you through the strategy around that part of the portfolio today. Hopefully it's going to be really insightful. I'm looking forward to it anyway. So yeah, thanks Julian. Take it from there.
Cheers, Toby. Morning all, and thank you for braving the elements and coming to join the session today. I guess today, and firstly now, and then the session later on in the morning, we'll see one of the big challenges that we face as software professionals, which is we have a number of different disparate systems that need to communicate with each other. And those systems need to drive not just decision-making process, but potentially automated decision-making process. And that's driven around the way that organizations have generally grown over time. If I think back 10, 15 years ago with previous careers, previous jobs, I think about the complexities of the systems that I worked against. It's never a case of, as an enterprise organization, you have a single technology, one-size-fits-all approach. If you work for a Facebook or a Yahoo, or maybe not so much a Google, but someone where your application is your business, it removes a lot of the complexities. You have a single well-defined architecture, you have a single product stack that you work against. If you're working in an enterprise organization where you have more than 5, or more than 10, or more than 50 applications that need to work together, that need to share information, that need to share data, it becomes a lot more difficult. It's no longer a single case of, hey, we've got an application that talks to another application in a simple, straightforward manner. We have 5, 10, 15, 20, 50 applications that need to communicate together. And also, those different applications will potentially be under the control of different application development teams. And again, within organizations, especially within large enterprise organizations, we see a lot of segregation when it comes to data and tools that are used. So 5 different business units may use 5 different software configuration management systems. They may use 5 different ticketing systems. They may use 5 different build systems. They may use different testing tools. They may use different deployment and release tools. It tends to be commonality at a higher level, things like project portfolio management that spans an enterprise, or change management that spans an enterprise. But those individual application teams will all have different tools. And the challenge then becomes, how do we make sure that we can report accurately across all of those different systems? How can we make sure that as we try to go faster from an application development perspective, as we move from traditional models of engineering, from, let's say, waterfall or scrumfall type approaches to more agile approaches, how can we make sure that we can support the business as we try to go faster? When we have all of these different systems that need to work together, if it's a mainframe system that needs to work with a distributed system, if it's a distributed system that needs to work with mobile systems. So we're trying to increase our pace of delivery. We're trying to make sure that we're building quality into our processes. We're trying to make sure that our customers are as happy as possible. Again, one of the key mantras from the Micro Focus perspective is making sure that customer input is taken. Well, how do we capture that different customer input across all of the different businesses that we have? I wish I could say we did it in a single tool. We do it in multiple tools across the different business units because, just like many companies, we've grown through acquisition. So how do we then normalize that data to make sure our prioritization is done correctly? Life's simple sometimes, or maybe not so simple. As we're building out our software processes, as we're building out all of our different systems and tools, as we're trying to get a standard normalized view of all of these data points, we end up with the challenges of disconnected process. And again, we've seen DevOps as a mechanism to try to address process challenges. The whole purpose behind the DevOps transition was because challenges existed between development and operations. Development wanted to move more quickly. Operations are driven by service level agreements. Operations are driven by a need for system uptime. In terms of process, there's a huge disconnect between the approach that a development team will take and an operations team. We've seen development teams transitioning to agile process. We've seen operations teams transitioning to ITIL-based approaches. Now, there are modules of things like ITIL with service transition and service delivery that are meant to help align. But the whole purpose that DevOps started to exist, the simplification, wasn't a tool change, it was a process change. The processes and the system disconnect drove the DevOps transition process. What we've seen is a continued increase in the pace of application delivery because we need to bridge that gap. And across the gap, we see a huge amount of impact by these disconnected systems. So having a system that doesn't communicate with a third-party system or a second-party system means that we increase the potential of risk, which means we increase the potential of failure of systems. Introducing changes into a production system that have gone through a process that hasn't been connected can lead to some significant challenges. So we're trying to reduce the integrations. We're trying to increase the level of confidence that the information that we're sharing across the different organizations is successful. And the way we see software and software delivery is kind of almost like a software supply chain. We're trying to go through our, it's almost a Deming-esque cycle, our PDCA type process, where we're taking the plan, the do, the check, the act approach, and applying it to our software delivery processes, and applying it to our software engineering processes. So we're trying to make sure that what we're delivering is what the customer, i.e. our businesses, have actually requested. We need to transition through the cycle as quickly as possible, but we need to make sure that everything we're doing tracks successfully. There's no point in having a really, really great requirements management system if the definition of the requirement is lost in the transition and the translation from the business to the engineering teams. There's no point in doing TDD from an application delivery perspective if what our definition from our test-driven designs doesn't match the requirement correctly, and our engineering implementation isn't done in the right way. So we're looking to join everything together across the software supply chain. Now, obviously, that includes quite a number of different tools. The software delivery and the tool integration chain, I skipped that slide because there's not so much information that's useful for you guys, but the software supply chain is pretty straightforward. We take our feeds and our inputs into the system in terms of requirements definition, requirements elicitation. That'll come from our PPM solution originally, or it'll come from our ITSM solution. We'll define our projects, we'll define our products, we'll define our requirements, that will flow together. We'll track the financial information around that. We'll also take our ITSM system, we'll take the problems, the incidents, and the changes that have been created as part of our previous software releases. Unfortunately, we don't release perfect software every time. We have bugs, we have issues, we have enhancements that come in. So what we end up with is the end-to-end chain with a lot of integration gaps. And what we try to do is provide a single one-size-fits-all approach to integration across the chain. Now, of course, one-size-fits-all is great if everyone is the same. If every organization behaves in the same way, has the same tooling, has the same challenges, it's very, very easy to define a one-size-fits-all strategy. In our case, and again, probably in your case, the one-size-fits-all wouldn't just apply to your business. We can't just say, hey, you're using Doors for requirements, you're using Jira for tickets, you're using RTC for source code management, you're using Micro Focus for release, because that doesn't match to your ecosystem. So we need to make sure that what we're delivering actually aligns with real expectations and requirements. If you're using Jira, great. If you're using Octane, great. If you're using Rally or version 1 for your ticketing systems, great. If you're using all of those, how do we standardize and normalize the data? So our software supply chain fits in as part of our end-to-end DevOps solution. As I mentioned, there's a lot of different tools that are involved in the end-to-end solution. We go from plan to build, to test, to release, deploy, to operate. On this slide, we're simply seeing tools that exist from a Micro Focus perspective, without even getting into all of the third-party systems that exist out there. So let's say we're talking about testing. Look at the number of different tools that just Micro Focus provides in the testing domain. That's before we introduce any notions of open source or third-party proprietary vendor software. As an organization, you may have one of those. You may have all of those. You may have all of those plus a number of other vendor products, a number of other open source products. So how can we tie together all of this information in our software supply chain? How can we make sure that everything that we're delivering from an application perspective, all the way from the planning to the operate phase, as we go around the cycle, and as we're trying to make that cycle go more and more quickly, to drive a business value, to drive business change into our operations environment as quickly as possible, how can we make sure that that all works together? Well, of course, in the same way that we have multiple tools for multiple domains, we actually have multiple integration options. I'm going to list 3 this morning, and we'll talk about 2 of them in a little bit of detail. There's actually a 4th one, which is delivered by one of our partners, the Task Help organization. They also provide integration capabilities. But for today, we'll talk about 3 primary options. We have a great technology which is called Micro Focus Connect. It allows us to take data from multiple disparate systems. So let's say Rally, let's say version 1, let's say Silk, and let's say Selenium. Take all of those different tools, take all of the different data structures and feeds, and pull it together into a single controlled repository. In this case, we talk about a synchronization-based delivery framework. Synchronization-based, what does that mean? That means we actually go out to those third-party systems, we take a reference and a copy of certain data from those systems, and we pull it into a controlled point of view. As we pull it into this controlled system, we normalize the data. Data normalization is key when we're trying to produce reports, when we're trying to get visibility across all of these different tools. If I have an apple and a banana, I can't report on them. If I have an apple and a banana and I report them as an orange, it becomes a lot easier. Wow, we're doing weird things with fruit here. This is not going well. So in terms of integration, option 1, as I said, pulling everything into a common location through our integration framework called MF Connect. This is incredibly powerful. It allows us to pull all of these different tools together. It allows us to have a single point of visibility. And of course, it then allows us to expose that information in a standard way. It also allows us to drive from the central location back out to those third-party tools. So if I wanted to update a Jira ticket from a single location across multiple Jira repositories, I could do that. If I wanted to update a number of test cases in Selenium from a single location, I could do that, even if they're in 20 or 30 different Selenium repositories. Option 2. The first one is great if you're doing huge data transaction type implementations, if you need to pull together a huge amount of data from different systems and have a standard normalized view of it. It's fairly heavyweight because obviously it's synchronizing data between different systems. Option 2 is slightly different. We have something called an integration framework. It's also referred to sometimes as a provider framework. And that takes a slightly different approach. Rather than taking all those federated data sources and pull it into a single location, it takes the single location notion and integrates to those third-party tools without syncing data. It does real-time connectivity checking. The reason we're able to do that now, and probably couldn't have done it 10, 15 years ago, is that most applications that provide data are accessible via RESTful services. So real-time data access now becomes available. The great thing about our integration framework is it isn't duplicating data storage. It's taking a real-time feed from a third-party system, and it has logic built into it which will allow us to then take actions. So with synchronization, you're looking at pulling data for exposure and visibility perspective. With the integration framework, we're taking data real-time from a third-party system, and we're using that live data to drive decisions. I'll give you a use case example. Let's say we're using the release control solution, and we want to manage our releases across multiple applications. In fact, if you turn up for the session in a couple of hours' time, you'll see this live. But let's say we wanted to talk to the mainframe system, a Jira system, and a ServiceNow system. And rather than pulling all the data together from all of those systems and storing it in a central location, we take certain pointer information from each of those systems, and when an update happens in one of those systems, we drive process. So someone updates a ServiceNow ticket to say we should release to production. Our integration framework becomes aware of that change. That change then drives the release and deployment of an application because our change has been approved for production, let's say. That change that's been approved for production will transition our mainframe deployment to allow the mainframe to actually go off and execute the promotion of a package into an environment. And at the same time, update all of our developer tickets to say that our developer changes in the Jira system have taken place. Real-time syncs and updates. And of course, that real-time update to our Jira system, for example, could then trigger the closure of the ServiceNow record because our change has been implemented. So, second option, integration framework. And then the third option is our integration through our PPM solution. Let's think about project portfolio management. We're driving the direction of our tickets and our systems from the project and portfolio level. We're coming at it from we have projects, we have definitions, we have users, we have stories that are defined from an agile perspective in PPM. Those stories that are defined need to get executed somehow. Our integration framework on the PPM side will allow us to automatically drive the creation of those stories in different tools. So, for example, I want to drive into Rally. It's not the same mechanism. It doesn't use the RESTful calls. It uses a much more hard-coded type approach of integration. But it will allow us to update those third-party tickets and tools to drive the creation of the Jira records, to drive the creation of the Octane records, potentially even to drive the creation of a build or a build project in Jenkins. The PPM notion becomes a lot more of a point-based solution. So if we're thinking about use cases, the integration framework, point-to-point, based upon a plugin architecture using RESTful connectivity. The PPM solution, point-to-point, using traditional integration, a little bit more hard-coded, but defined for a specific function and task. MF Connect, much, much broader, many, many integrations, sync-based interaction. So that's the three approaches that we can take. Of course, every one of those has benefits. Different ones of those will fit the different requirements that you have. Again, there isn't a one-size-fits-all. If you're not interested in the data connectivity from a synchronization perspective, you don't need Connect. However, if you want to have a single consolidated view of all of your data sets, it's a great solution. So Connect, what does it do? What does it allow us to do? Let's drill into the details a little bit more. Governance and visibility is key. It's been the driver behind Micro Focus as an organization for a large number of years. We need to make sure that the organizations that we deal with have complete control and visibility into everything that goes on in all of their environments. We need to make sure that we can track and trace every system update that takes place. So the MF Connect technology allows us to do that. Let's say a simple use case. We want to do some governance across not just tickets, but software configuration management system. Let's say we want to take a star team or an AccuRev, or a Dimension CM, or a Git, or a Subversion, because we have all of those different source code management systems in our organization. But we want to point a single location for control. We want to provide a single location for visibility. Connect will allow us to do that. Connect will allow us to build on a hub concept where all of the data comes into the common hub, is normalized, and can be worked on. Of course, it allows us to take permissions from all of these different systems and apply them, so we can't just go into the hub and pull out data if we don't have access to the data set from a system perspective. And of course, it isn't just software change management. It's across the broad spectrum of the SDLC. Associated with that is all of our reporting capabilities. We have the data store. We have the traceability. We can figure out that a requirement was implemented in a release, even if it's in 5 different systems. The requirement went into Jira, it went into Rally, it went into Octane. The delivery through each of those different tools, through multiple source code management systems, through multiple build tools, into a release which went out of the door packaged together. Connect gives us that traceability across everything. And of course, there's no point in having all of this data if we can't get it back again. So the hub notion that we talked about also has a complete versioning engine built into it. Not only do we take all of this different data and store it in a consistent way, we can also revert back to a point in time. Think about that. How did my application and all my application dependencies and all my system dependencies look a week ago? Let's roll back to there. Let's go forward. Let's go to now. How does it look? And again, something I mentioned earlier on, we can actually aggregate across lots of different source code management systems. We can take all of these different asset repositories, which all use different functionality, which all use different terminology, which all potentially store versions in different ways, and put a consistent, consolidated approach across them. So what does the Connect framework allow us to put in place? Well, of course, it means that we don't have to define and demand that different parts of the business use the same technology. There's no point in providing a source code management system for a mainframe team, which is the same as a source code management system for a mobile application. You have slightly different use cases. You may even have the notion of mode 1, mode 2 from a Gartner perspective, one which is the system of record and one which is the system of innovation. So if we're doing that, why do we demand that people use the same technology? We want to take best of breed for the individual business areas, the individual application deliveries. And with the Connect information and the hub underneath it, we can actually do that. We can say it doesn't matter if you're using Git or Subversion or mainframe. We can consolidate all this information into one location and then drive business decisions based upon that. How do I know that my mobile application, which is dependent upon my mainframe application, is complete and ready to deploy? How do I know that if I deploy it, my mainframe application is actually ready to go as well, or the changes that my mainframe application needs to make has already taken place? And of course, it's not just a case of saying, we'll do this and we'll consolidate everything. We also provide integrations into the different IDEs or development environments to help out, to standardize, to make sure developers can get what they need when they need it. So we're trying to get the visibility, we're trying to connect the systems, and we're trying to make sure that consistency happens across the board. And of course, as I mentioned, you can do that in different ways. You can say, hey, we're going to standardize. Everyone across our business has to use the same tool. Everyone has to use Git. Everyone has to use Jira. The challenges then addressed that you need to address is how do you make that organizational change to support that? So yeah, single vendor solution, tricky. Point-to-point solution, tricky. We end up building out connectors, or you end up building a connector yourself for every technology to bring them together. Or what if we want to use something like an enterprise service bus? Again, if you're in the room and you're involved in software engineering, You should be spending your time building software for your company. Business value software. You shouldn't be building software to deliver features for your company. You shouldn't be building out software or source code management systems. You shouldn't be building out integrations. Why? Because that's a huge amount of time and effort that ultimately doesn't get you anywhere. So if you want to take any of those or all of those options, yeah, it's going to keep you pretty busy. Again, MF Connect, what does it allow us to do? Take the complexity out of the systems. Have the integrations across the board that allow us to work together. Put the hub in the middle. Get the integrations between the systems. Normalize the data. Provide a single point of visibility, control, and compliance. The beauty of it is that we provide the integrations so you don't have to. We keep the integrations current. We keep the integrations in a place where you can just say, hey, I've got a new version of Jira. I need to make sure that that can be integrated into my repository in the same way as my old versions of Jira can, or Rally, or version 1, or Jenkins. So our connectors allow us to do just that. Taking the data model, pulling everything together. And again, finally, the integration framework. Second option, RESTful connectivity, easy to maintain, low footprint, low profile. The beauty of the integration framework from a customer perspective, you can write your own integrations using a predefined standard. We provide you with the SDK. We provide out-of-the-box connectors for all kinds of technologies, from mainframe to mobile. We provide you with connectors to the ticketing tools, the source code management tools, the build tools. If there's one that you need to introduce, and a number of our customers have actually done this, you can build your own plugin. So integrations. Connect with the hub, integration framework, PPM. If you've got any questions, you want to get into the real technical details of this, please feel free to give me a call or reach out. I'm going to wrap up because I'm going to try and get us back on track from a timing perspective. 9:30, and we've got people anxious to present. So if there are any questions, feel free. Otherwise, we can take them offline. So, yeah. Yeah.
We have all kinds of agreements with those third parties. So if they want to change something,
I'll repeat it. So the question was, do we have agreements with the third party? So if they're going to change things, can we keep up to date? And the answer is yes. In a lot of instances, probably not for every tool that you've seen there. Some of the tools, we only get access to them once they've been released. So there's normally a small period of time when a new version comes out that we'll be updating our connector and our integrations, purely because some of those tools see us as competition, and we don't have access to their pre-release software. But most of the time, within a quarter, then the new version is updated. And we tend to find that works quite well because most of our customers don't adopt new releases into production immediately. They'll wait for a period of time. Cool. Any other questions? Yeah, oh, sorry.
Hello, good morning.
Morning.
Two questions.
Mm-hmm.
I've not seen PPM integrated with MF Connect.
Okay.
Is that important, isn't? Second question, why not having the service manager tool, which is the umbrella for your software development lifecycle,
Mm-hmm.
manage the changes, having it connected with the rest of the tools?
Okay, good question. So the MF Connect plugin for PPM is being developed as we speak. So MF Connect and PPM will integrate through a shipped by Micro Focus plugin. In terms of, so you're right, it doesn't exist, it's not available out there yet, but it is coming very soon. And then in terms of the other option with using the enterprise service management or the ITSM type solution, like a ServiceNow, for example, as integration, in our world, the center of the universe isn't necessarily ITSM. in a lot of the customers that I work with, ITSM is critical for production changes. We tend to see that the release function and release management is the domain that spans the entire end-to-end SDLC. So from my perspective, the integration framework reaches up and gets driven down by the ITSM solution, but we end up in control of how and when it happens. So I guess you can do that. The reality of the situation is, for now at least, our preferred approach is not to use the enterprise service management solution as the integration layer, but it's to use the release framework as the integration layer, because that's what drives the functional value into the environments. Any other questions? Oh, one more. Sorry.
Is this now the replacement for the HP synchronizer, or? It looks like it, because...
Good question. So it's a real what is best for the business conversation. The reality is, yes, there's still the sync that's going to exist. A lot of the standardization that we're doing is around Connect. We've had a lot of customers who over the years have been using Connect. It's a product that's been in the market for over 15 years. As a technology solution, but we've changed it quite a bit in terms of architecture in the last 2-3 years as we've focused on consolidation across domains. So it's not the replacement in terms of, hey, it's going away. It's the replacement in terms of, yes, you also now have another option, and if you do want to do normalization across even more tools, that's the approach.
Thanks, Julian.
Cheers, Toby.
And I think I got the 2 sessions wrong in my mind, because I thought this one was more the
no, the
session.
The release demo one is later. Yeah.
Exactly. But thanks, Julian. That's really useful. Thank you. And I think, as Julian said, really, it's a choice in terms of what you want to do, right? So we've got partnerships. We've got some technology ourselves, and reality is we will work with you to choose the best solution that fits your needs. So, absolutely. So, next speaker up today is Sammy Suro. Sammy and I go far too long back, Sammy. I think it's probably 8 or 9 years in terms of when we first started working together. Sammy heads up basically one of the practice areas for one of our partners out of the Nordics regions, Tieto. And Sammy's going to come up today and talk about how Tieto are looking at using our technology to help them manage their customers' end-to-end delivery capabilities, but really also about how they're embedding security practices more into the heart of the SDLC process flows as well. So without further ado, Sammy, I welcome you to the stage. Thank you.
Thank you, Toby. Good morning on my behalf as well. Yeah, Sammy Suro is my name, working as a business solution director in Tieto, mainly looking for the business development in the quality assurance and the DevOps area. What I've put together today is the real use case, the customer case of the using the ALM, ALM.NET, and then also the Fortify on demand. I'm not going to tell exactly what those products are and the applications are. I think that you all know. If not, you can go to the exhibition shown and see more. But I would like to highlight more that what is the added value to the customer of the solutions as such. And then, like Toby also mentioned, that what we have created on top of Micro Focus technology as a service, which then our customers are utilizing and adding the value of that. And also at the end, what the customer has gained. A bit of the setting the scene in the beginning. Tieto is one of the largest ICT service providers in the Nordics. So if you don't know us, no hard feelings about that. We are known mainly in the Nordics, even though we work or we have the office in about 20 countries and work across 85 at the moment. We're also not that new, so established in 1968, and I'm happy to say that we still have some applications from that age, and they are not very modern, but still running. And as someone said, that if something is working, don't break it. And so they are still there. So that said, you understand a bit of the scene where we are. About 14,000 employees working across the globe, providing the services. But today we are not talking about us that much. So what I try to tell you and walk you through is the case, like I said, the case example, how the customer has taken the quality in the well mannered in this solution. What kind of the cloud-based opportunities we have been able to create them, and then some insights of the added business value as well. So try to answer at least these questions and some others as well. So the customer behind is a high-quality brand department store located in Helsinki and also some other countries and head locations, cities. Customer started the digitalization journey by renewing the ERP system, and when they were in a very early stage of this program, they kind of started to think that, well, we have only one option based on our brand in the market, and it is the quality. So we can't fail. We don't end up to the news or newspapers or yellow papers with the bad quality because something went wrong, and they didn't, because they paid attention to this. So in that sense, it's really nice to see that how things can go good. But before they started, they raised actually a few questions and then the topics, especially for the technology that they will use and utilize. First of all, they knew that they will have a kind of the limited period of time of 3 years for this program, and they know that it's not going to be flat. So it's going to be flexible highs and tops and peaks and lows and so on. And at the same time, they understand that they will have quite a big group of people who they need to give end user support. Also that the best practice is and how to do these things and how to get the tools into use and how to configure those and so on. Also, the one important thing is that, okay, how do we get the best out of these tools and not just the tool in the bookshelf? So that how do we get them into the project and the deliveries as well? How do we integrate also with the other systems? And even though the 3 years period is not that big, but how do we then do the maintenance for all of these things, the backups, the databases and other systems and you name it. And the last, and definitely not the least for them, is that it's not enough that all the functionality is good or the system is working fine. It also needs to be secured. So with all these bits and pieces together, they kind of end up in a very good situation for us, because we were shortlisted together with Micro Focus at that moment of time. And then they calculated all these things together, almost 1 + 1 + 1, and realized that the hell no, this is not core business for us. We don't have that big IT on our own. We are a department store, and that's what we should be concentrating on. Let's kind of take the fact, but we know that we have a project to go. So we got the deal and helped them. And what happened actually during that 3 years period? Let's set the scene first. So this kind of the orange line there is the assumption from the customer that, okay, we will need 20 licenses for ALM Octane. And they were using the technology already before on their own. So they kind of knew that how to use the tools and so on. But still, what happened in the beginning is that first 5 months, they were not able to use the tool or implement actually the tool, which was one of the topics in the list already in the beginning. And if you think about this 5 months period and compare it to the kind of the traditional licensing situation that, well, you have amount of licenses which you are not utilizing, so someone might be unhappy. Okay, was this a good investment? Maybe some doubts and so on. In this case, they called us in April and said that, could you guys help us to implement this now real? The project is getting started, or actually already started, and we are not there where we're supposed to be. And what then happened? Actually, we have two interesting points in this picture. One is in June, where they would have already hit the peak and went above. So meaning that if you would have purchased the license in the normal model, you would have to invest again, which is also very easy situation that you ask the funding and then you need the second time. And after the holiday period in July, there was already some interest internally in this customer, and actually two different the project as a part of the same digitalization program started at the same time. And for our surprise, they end up to 50 concurrent users in Octane, which is fairly good result. And the second year onwards, we started to see that, okay, there's a bit of fluctuation. And interesting period there again in the summertime, kind of the peak. Well, this happens in the Nordics, so those who knows then, pretty much the country is closed during July and August. Nothing happens. Everything is dead, and the streets are empty because that's the only 2 months when we see the sun and warm. But in reality, this illustrates that what happens in the real business, that's again, it's not stable. It goes up and down, and there is the fluctuations, and also at the last stage, where when the kind of the program is going the final end, the utilization goes down. And all these we were able to provide to our customer. And what we are doing in Tieto, or what we have done, like Toby said, we have been working also together many years. I have been in Tieto now for 16 years, and all that time we have had this solution available. We haven't marketed too well, sorry, but that's why we are here today. So we have packaged actually the almost all nowadays Micro Focus products as a service, which we provide from our data centers, and we of course collaborate with Micro Focus as well, like a Fortify on demand, which is still provided by Micro Focus, but all the others are mainly provided from Tieto's data centers from the Nordics. And what is the added value to the customer, and in this case, was that we can provide the full flexible licensing up and down, and so usually the flexibility is upwards, so as long as you go higher, that's okay, but we can also go lower. And this is an example for our so-called public cloud. It's not a public in that sense, but the name is public. Actually, the shared environment where you have the same same database, same solutions, like a ALM install base is the same for all the customers. And what does it allow our customers to do is you can go up and down as you like. You can go even to 0 if you don't use the tools at all. That's fine. If you don't use the tool for 12 months, then we ask that, are you serious? That you still want to be here in the service? Or there is also no top, so you can scale up and down. And some of our customers are basically scaling something from 10 license to 100, 150. So in that kind of the level, it goes. So in that sense, it's a real pay-per-use solution. There are different kind of combinations how you can do your subscription. Either it can be fully flexible, meaning that you don't tell in advance at all, so you just use, and we see that what has been the usage. Or some customers like this kind of the pre-subscription, and they say that for the next month or the next 6 months, I would like to have this amount of licenses because they have a budget that they need to use or something like that. As said, one very important part of this digitalization program was the quality and security especially. So they simply didn't want to take the risk that the application level security is poor. What was already thought in the beginning is the traditional things that, okay, yeah, we have a platform network level securities and we have firewalls and this and that in place. But the application wasn't in the initial planning before we came up. And in that situation, as we all know, that high amount of the vulnerabilities happens actually in the application level. So what we realized together with the customer is that if we look at the standard DevOps solution or this kind of approach, everything is delivered quick and fast and speedy. I had an interesting discussion also with one of our customers' lead developer and asking that, how do you see the security in your DevOps solution? Where is it actually? And he said that, well, it is not there. And okay, why? Well, we are not measured by security. We are measured by the speed of the delivery. So how quickly we can release. And he also mentioned that it would be really good if someone could take this burden away from us and still guarantee that the application security is good instead of we have to do it because we are already quite busy with all the features and functionalities that we try to deliver. So in that sense, actually the application security is everywhere. It should be everywhere. And it should be kind of obvious that wherever bits and pieces you are, the security should be taken into the consideration. So how did we combine these two together? On purposely, they are small pictures because they are real. So the idea behind this is that, like in Julian's presentation also, it doesn't mean that you have to collect the information in the different places, but integrate them and get the visibility of the information. And what we can see here, for example, is that if we do the work in the security area and then we had the findings, let's say that here it says 13 critical issues, we can get the same information for the testers and then the developers' desktop, so we get the visibility that what our security team is doing, what are they finding, and have that, and in that kind of the conversation, and then a clear understanding and the visibility as well, what's going on. What was really pleased by our customer of the Fortify on Demand solution was that they got the different kind of reports from the one tool for the various stakeholders. So easy star rating for the solutions. They end up actually saying that if their solutions are not 4 or 5 stars, they are not approved for definition of done. So it was quite nice to see. Also in the middle, quite easy management report to show up, okay, what is the level of the application, kind of the hardcore evidence that, okay, these applications have been tested, and a lot of added value for the development teams as well by using the tool itself. The one thing that I promised to add into this presentation as well is that GDPR as a part of the security and how we, as a service provider and our customers have kind of taken the GDPR into the consideration in these areas. And it's actually quite interesting because this is a bit of the two-folded and sometimes not fully understood even. That first of all, we have our traditional testing stuff. So that the applications that we are testing, they are the different environments, and there is the GDPR already. We have to take into the consideration the data privacy for those applications that we are testing. And we have the solutions like ALM in this picture that we provide as a service to our customers, but surprise, surprise, there is also some personal data. And in those test cases that they are using, there is also personal data. So we have actually already in 2016 done the internal assessment for our solutions, and we are in that sense compliant for the GDPR. And what did we do for these solutions is that we have get rid of this kind of the common accounts for the site admin. All the persons needs to have their own. Same applies for the admin. There's no more project level common admins. That's all gone. All our support members, they also anymore don't have the access to the project without specific permission from the customer. So it's added only when needed. We have made a written statement from our customers that you really don't use productional data. They still do. But now it's their kind of issue, not anymore ours. And our pre-production data is also anonymized in the way that, like I said, that we have to take it into the consideration in our side as well. And we have 2 customers who have a bit of extra security systems for the GDPR due to their business. And for that, what we have added is actually one additional application server with the full debug mode on. So all the administration activities, what we do, we can log on the lowest detail level. It's not mandatory for the standard customers, but for those, yes. So how do we run this whole show? We have operations or the support functionalities in 3 countries, Finland, Sweden, and Czech Republic. We work in the normal working office hours, nothing special in that, and then do all the services from there. And actually, we wouldn't be so successful providing these services so long without the FlexCare services as well. So we have named account, support account persons for, I think now, 4 or 5 applications. Also the named technical persons, which are then our kind of the backbone. If we are not able to solve the issues on our own, we have a quick access to the Micro Focus guys and even to R&D to get the things done and solved nice and quickly. So at the end, what the customer really gained for this solution. So we made a bit of the calculations after the 3 years period of time and end up that if they would have purchased the standard license, they actually gained 75% in costs. And what the customer has replied back to us is the satisfaction in scale 1 to 4, 4 in 3 years in a row. So that's quite good for the support functionalities, if you think about that. And also, like I said, the GDPR compliant we have been already for almost 2 years now, even though the GDPR is not yet even active. The last thing, couple of examples from our customers, which are public reference as well. And the one thing what I'm really kind of pleased is to see that the financial service customers who are using the cloud-based solutions, and this is good for the sales, because if the banks can be the customers and then they rely on the security, well, pretty much everyone else can then be kind of satisfied in that area. We are using the systems on our own as well. For example, our energy sector, where we also have high quality brand customers. So both for the security and the application QA, as well as some global banking customers as well are on the reference list. We try to keep on track, but I think that we are having time for a few questions if you have any in mind.
Any questions for Sammy?
What is the big difference by the solution you're offering and Micro Focus with his SaaS solution?
Good question. The main difference is that we provide the services. I think that we are the only one who provides this from the Nordic data centers. So our kind of the go-to-market focus is the Nordic countries. So where the Micro Focus is having the EMEA data centers or the global data centers, we are dedicated in the Nordics. And in that sense also, our flexibility is, we still believe that we are even more flexible than the Micro Focus can be today. So we are making it that level where they are not yet, and try to be as kind of the fully flexible.
Right. Thanks, Sammy.
Okay.
Thank you very much. So yeah, I mean, I think it's a very interesting use case, because obviously we have our own products and we deliver them so you can install in your data centers. We display them on SaaS, but I think the key things that I've learned working with Sammy over the years is sometimes having that service provider end to end, not just for our software, our tools, but also to deliver the testing services on top, actually execute some of the functions and those things that happen as well. So you can kind of get more of an end-to-end proposition. So the good news is, I think we have many different ways that you can consume the technology, whether it's from ourselves on SaaS or via our partners in those MSP types of solutions. So thank you, Sammy, and I hope to continue the journey we've been on over many, many years. So next up, I think I started working with these gentlemen probably maybe 2 years ago. We've recorded 2 different videos on the subjects, and we did our latest iteration last night that will be live on YouTube in probably a few months' time. But Stefan and Thomas from a company called IQVIA, and they'll obviously take you through who IQVIA are and what they're doing, but really, really interesting kind of use case from how we've been kind of taking ourselves from a traditional kind of test perspective to really getting into how we can help our customers to drive a much more integrated engineering and DevOps approach to software delivery and capabilities. So I'm really excited to hear what the guys have got to say. I'm sure you will be as well. It's a very interesting company and a very interesting use case in terms of what's happening in their markets and how they're using our tools to help them to start the journey towards that modern delivery and continuous delivery process. So without further ado, I want to welcome Stefan and Thomas up to the stage. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Toby. Morning. So good morning, everyone. I'm Thomas Salmon. I'm DevOps Director at IQVIA.
I'm Stefan Serrario, running test at IQVIA.
So I hope you are still wake up this morning after last night and you have enough energy to listen to us. So we will share with you today, and we are really happy to share this with you, our story about the implementation of the Agile methodology and DevOps in our company. which is a big company now. So the name is IQVIA, it's a new name. The history of this company is really built by acquisition and merger. So that's a big part of our history and explain where we are now. So we are now a big company coming from the last merger of two big companies in the pharma industry. So the first one was Quintiles. It was and it's still into IQVIA a worldwide clinical and real-world experience on the clinical research. It's one of the main players in this industry. And IMSL, who was the leader and still the leader in healthcare, big data, and technologies for pharma companies. So now, with these two companies in one, we are able to provide solutions that helps our customer to drive healthcare forward. And so this is a result of a lot of acquisition, and in our business unit, global business units, there is different companies like small startups and big companies, and we are trying to get the best of the two in our development cycle and all the process we are using in order to get the innovation we could get from all the different groups. So a small, short video to present IQVIA.
Tomorrow is a promise. The promise of a new future, of successes earned, as we promise our customers to help them drive healthcare forward. Our customers are inspiring us to reimagine how healthcare should work, where human ingenuity can finally unleash the power of ever-expanding health information, analytics, and technology, where clinical trials are designed around the patient, where predictive analytics prevent medical errors before they happen, where all healthcare players work together to make patient lives better, where every medical decision is informed by evidence, where treatment costs reflect the value they bring, when precision medicines seamlessly find their way to the right patient. It's the promise delivered by mobilizing unparalleled data, analytics, technology, and expertise, connecting stakeholders to improve health around the world. IMS Health and Quintiles are now IQVIA, the promise of the future. Join us on the journey.
So IQVIA is a big company with 4 main global business units, and Stefan and I are part of the technology business, global business unit, which provides products and solutions, meaning multiple products working together to our clients. We have 7 pillars, product pillars, that are building and delivering to customers one or several products for each of the pillars. And we have some cross entities, cross teams that are providing services to these different pillars. So it's really a product-led organization. And Stefan and I are part of the architecture and standards cross pillar, let's say, serving the different product pillars. The product pillars are the combination of different acquisition to create this new portfolio answering all the needs of our customers, and the architecture and standards is helping this product, these different product pillars, providing to make sure that the architecture makes sense, the business architecture and the technical architectures, and we are providing services to the different product in order for them to be able to focus on building the product, like the DevOps chain, and the testing team, and etc., and documentation, etc. So because the story of this company and this global pillar is multiple acquisition, we have a development center dispatched around the world. So it's an additional complexity that we need to take into account in our agile processes and the way we are working together. So the way we are working in delivering our product or building our product is that we have product pillars, as I said, and transversal teams. In order to implement the agile methodology, so we have to have these different teams working together. So that's why we are talking about virtual teams in our agile teams, squads, with developers, product owners coming from the pillar, and testers and documenters coming from the cross-pillar teams. And together, they are working on specific features as in squads, in agile methodology, in order to build the product. In order to have this working smoothly and integrated, we need to define some best practices and standards that all the teams need to take into account in their development. The first one is we need to have the teams, the virtual teams, to be in common time zone as much as possible because it's easier, even if they are not co-located. We need, as much as we can, to use the same tools because we can share experience, we can have the benefits of the economy of scales, etc. And when a new team is starting, we can benefit from the experience of others. And tools is a good thing, but processes is the first thing we need to have, the same processes in order to be able to use the same tools. Then all the teams are delivering to the same customers and in the same way, meaning the operations needs to be standardized as well, the operation procedure for sure as well, because we are working in a high regulatory compliance sector, so we need really to be careful about this. So the way we are providing our product to our customers needs to be seen from our customer exactly the same, but behind the scene, we have three main architecture patterns that we are supporting building our product. The first one is more the legacy product, but the legacy product is our main install base, providing the most revenue, so we need to make it really working well. Meaning we are building the full stack from the data center to the application. The second architecture pattern is using infrastructure as a service on public provider, and our main provider is AWS. And on this, we are trying to do the best practice we can with infrastructure as code, and we try to go to DevOps for all the product. And that's a new strategy in our platform-to-platform strategy. We don't want to reinvent the wheel. We want to benefit from the main player of the market to get the best platform more than rebuilding it. So we are using partners that are the main players, like Salesforce.com for sure, with the sales and the marketing cloud, with Rolcio for big data and analytics. Since yesterday, we have a new partnership with Box for content management, and we will keep going, having new and new platforms working with.
So we have a big challenge here, because we are the result of many acquisitions. So we have many products, okay? And those products are complex. Not complex to use, but complex by the number of usage passes they are offering, okay? And in multiple domains, CRM, MCM, multi-channel marketing, we have data warehouse, analytics, master data management, big data. So in terms of challenge, in terms of DevOps and testing, it's quite challenging. Just one example, on the CRM part, we have a product that offers more than 300,000 usage paths. And this code can be executed on more than 100 devices, a combination of operating system and devices. And our engineering teams are delivering to us on DevOps side and testing side more than 100 build per year. So if we want to fully test that, it consists in 5 billion of tests just for one product. And we have 15 plus products. And those products exchange data together. And to do that, we are around 300 engineers. And in our team on DevOps, ProdOps, and testing side, we had 100 engineers, okay? Next slide. So why are we moving to Agile? I already answered partially this because we need to go fast. The first things to understand is that it came from our CEO initiative because we are the result of many company acquisitions and the SaaS operating model needs to be standardized, okay? On the business side, our customer partners are requesting us to deliver faster and better products, okay? And we need to do that with pressurized budget on our operations. And finally, we need to act as one team because we are running under a heavy regulated context. And so that we need to have standard operating procedures, so that we need to have standard tools as well. So how do we manage the change? So for me, my feedback for you today is changing takes time first. And we need, because we are under compliance and regulatory constraints, we need to have a phases approach. So basically, we started to change our mind. So in order to be DevOps, rather than to be waterfall. So changing the mind is the first step. Then we have defined the processes, and we have trained our people, and all of that has been done recently. And now we are in the phase, the latest phase that consists in equipping our teams with the right tool. So if you want to say something about that.
So indeed, the two first steps takes a lot of time because changing the way people are doing things and changing and agreeing on new processes with everyone is really a challenge. So we use a lot of methodologies like Kaizens, lean management, working in workshops, etc., to define where we want to go. We train people, and then we came to the, okay, we need to talk about the tools. Yes, we need to talk about the tools. So what we did is that we took the different product development team and says, okay, can you list all the tools you are using for the different steps and different usage? They did it. Sometimes it was obvious to say, okay, fine. Everyone is using the same for this. Let's use it. But for others, it was not so simple. For example, for the source code management, a Git, whatever is a Git tool, it's okay. For the CI, starting to be difficult. I really like this one. No, I want this one. Oh, we spend time on this. Oh, okay. Can we agree that we will go to one single, so we decide one, and we decide to take GitLab as a standard. But we said, okay, you don't need to change now. The only thing is that if you build something new, please go to the standard. If you have a legacy system, please put into your roadmap at some point that you will go to the standard. So that's the way we are working today. And we are starting to get benefits from this now. So it's a bit of frustration during a lot of time because you cannot apply your new tools from end to end on any product because there is no new product started every day. So you can do something here and do something here, and you are learning, and it's good. And at some point, there is a new product or new project. And that's the first time we are now starting to be able to say, we can now use the full chain with all the teams together and build from scratch what we would like to do. And that's very exciting. that's what we are studying now, on implementing an API ESB on top of a partner as well, which is MuleSoft. And we are really excited because we can start with this new. And what we did as well is to change into the mindset, tools, etc., to say what we need to do if we want to do DevOps, really, is to do infrastructure as code. We are talking a lot about softwares in this conference, but I think that infrastructure as code, in fact, is doing infrastructure as a software. And you can apply exactly the same methodology using the same tools, pretty much, on infrastructure. And everything is changing as soon as you are starting to do this. And Terraform is one of the tools we are using for that.
So yes, one more learning here is everything is code. So what has been achieved? So on the testing side, so what test process? As mentioned, we are the result of many company acquisitions. So now, everywhere in the world, we are using the same test processes. Everything is code. When we started the DevOps mindset change in 2015, most of our tests were manual. And today, where we were not able to execute any automated test 3 years ago, we are able to do 10 more testing, extending the coverage with less effort. Meaning less effort, I'm doing 10 times more, extending my test coverage with only 30% of the current, the same test engineer resources. So they have not been fired, they have been promoted to other projects. So with same budget, we are able to do more and better and faster. So that we have started to create the pipelines together. So we have built the continuous testing side using the automation based on open source products. Okay?
So we are still in the middle of the journey. So today we have defined our new tool sets and where we want to go, processes, etc. But the reality is that today this is where we are. And we differentiate the legacy product and internal data centers and the cloud-based with partner platforms. Because what you can do in the cloud is self-service. It's easier or at least quicker to test, to fail, to retest, refail, etc. So that's why we decided to start our innovation or using our new tool set into the cloud. So we have a GitLab platform in the cloud that we can use for source code, CI, and CD with a container platform embedded, where we can spin up nodes to trigger infrastructure deployment or software deployment or whatever we need. So, and it's really, really helping. That's very great. It was a learning to go to this, but it's now really, really great. We are using Jira as a tool for our project management, user story follow-up, and issue following, etc. We have a set of testing tools, which is quite huge, but it's really helping because we need this to be embedded.
Yeah. So we are using Quality Center for more than 10 years now. Open source like Selenium, and we are testing the security, not on the DevOps process, but this is one objective for this year. SonarCube, we want to go there because I have seen some very interesting presentation this week regarding the integration of SonarCube inside ILM Octane, which I think is the good way to move our testing. So maybe I have for another presentation for that. We are using other tools, but the most important thing is that we rely on business intelligence. And another aspect I have seen this week, and I'm very proud of, It's about the open data protocol, which has been implemented everywhere on Micro Focus solutions, where you can use those data, analyze them in multiple dimensions, and get fantastic insight about the quality of your software.
So on production, we need to monitor more than we used to do in order to have a good feedback loop, and that we are investing on different tools, but I think that Splunk will be our main tool for that tomorrow. So that's where we want to go now, is to have a unified set of tools, even if we have some differences between, we have some constraints that we need to take into account. So we cannot have exactly the same tool everywhere, but that's what we want to have. And what we expect here to get from Octane, that we are running a POC for proof of concept at the moment, is to get the visualization of our pipeline and the monitoring of our pipeline end-to-end from Octane, something that we don't have today. We can have data from each of the steps, but all the teams cannot see the same data at the same time and to say, oh, what is happening to me is certainly coming from what you did here or something like that. So that's what we are expecting today. And in terms of project or agreement on the tools, we want to build something with Octane and to demonstrate the value before we request this to be agreed as a standard by everyone. So that's why we have this proof of concept, and we expect to be able to demonstrate more than to explain, etc.
So the value we perceive with Octane and what we want to achieve, so we will see after the POC. I think it will answer our question to produce faster and better. The pipelines model, as I said, allowed us to very accelerate our delivery with the same quality. What I like in Octane is the flexible model that has been implemented. We can test on the previous methodology, waterfall. We have some few products that are still using that methodologies, but we can go to the next new development methodologies such as full agile. And behind the two, we have the iterative models, what I call slow agile, which is a very quick waterfall. So here we are answering all the demands on a very flexible manner. The interesting thing here for us is it's a SaaS product. So the experience across the world will be the same for our users, because today Quality Center is hosted internally in Europe. So a tester in Seattle or a tester in Japan is suffering from the latency. And in terms of producing better, and I very like this one because I'm customer advocate, customer mindset oriented, this is our DNA. And the analytics, monitoring the production, being able to understand the usage, the failures, can help to reduce our customers' issues. Then, as I said, we are running under a very regulated context, the pharmacy. So we need standardization. So it seems the perfect tool to answer our need. Okay? We need to be GXP compliant. What does it mean? General X practices. So here we need the traceability of all electronic records in order to ensure our customers that they are safe with our tool and they can do business with our products. Then it will support the new IQVIA lifecycle, meaning that we need an end-to-end view of the development process from requirement definition to production. And today, our tools, great, we have a pipeline, but our tools are not communicating together. So what happened when there is a failure before? So having this end-to-end view allows us to build trust, to show where are the problems and to address them as it is, because failure is acceptable in a DevOps, agile context. And I think it is perceived as the missing link between our tool, meaning on the engineering side, I spoke, but probably tomorrow with implementation and delivery, okay? Because we will be able to share our product asset and push them. Okay, we have done that. You can reuse our automation, but please update it accordingly to your needs. And finally, and I really like this one because it's a big shift in the approach. We like the relationship we have with Micro Focus. We had several fantastic discussions with R&D on the vision because we are sharing the same vision on analytics, especially on the CI with GitLab. So we like this collaboration, the trust, and we understand each other. So we are moving in the same direction, so that's just incredible, fantastic. So Octane evaluation, we are under a very regulated environment. So we need to follow an approach answering legal GXP requirements. So this is what we are doing. We have set up the charter. We have a budget for that. And we are today in the evaluation itself. So we'll see later this year how it will become. But I'm optimistic. This one is for you.
Yeah. So we have we made a choice to say we would like to use ALM Octane SaaS. So it was discussed, and we said we need to be cloud as much as we can. That's the new strategy we would like to have, but we have as well product and tools that are in our internal data centers. So today we are in progress right now to connect all the tools. So we are implementing the synchronization, etc. So we would like to start with the main tools we would like to see connected. So the source code, Jira and Jenkins, and all these. And then we will go to add the rest week after week.
So what is planned to happen? The promise. So we have today one test process, but tomorrow I'm perfectly sure that if we succeed the POC, we will have one unified end-to-end product lifecycle process, and probably much more with the delivery after. With the apples and the capability to monitor and understand how users, real users, are using our products, I think we are moving to the reactive to the proactive way of work, meaning that we can anticipate issues on the production before customer complains to our support team. So I'm expecting a big reduction of customer issues here. And what we do not have today, we are estimated that based on the feeling, is real customer insight. And this helps to drive the quality to the next level.
So it's not an easy journey. It's not finished. We are in the middle of the journey. We are optimistic. It's really exciting to do all this. So sometimes there is some challenges, and it's not happening as we would like, nor not as fast as we would like, etc. But it's progressing, and we are happy to be in this journey today.
So yes, in terms of learning, we have failed many times. We have learned many times, and we are improving within the time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, any questions for Stefan and Thomas? I can't believe there's no questions. Oh, go on.
So, well, actually a couple. First one, why Terraform?
So we choose, it's a good question. So we choose Terraform because we were really under pressure about time. And because we are from different acquisitions, there is a startup that used to be in the cloud since the beginning, etc. And they said, but we have only a few weeks and we need to deploy this It will be a challenge because we need to make sure that everything will be optimized as much as possible, etc. So to save time, I think you should try to use this tool, Terraform. We said, oh, what is Terraform? Every day a new tool, every day a new thing. Oh. So I said to my team, okay, let's try. Let's take 1 or 2 weeks, we try. If we get benefits, it would be great. If not, we'll do something else. And Terraform is really a tool that you need to learn, but when you learn it, you can build infrastructure as code really, manage your infrastructure as a software, put this into your source code management tool, and get the benefit of the automation. And so now it's becoming our standard for that. That's a good story.
And the second one, I guess, is how did you deal with the cultural shift that's happening within the organization? I didn't say there would be easy questions.
This one is interesting as well. So you know the change. You have a great experience at Micro Focus. So we started with being inspired by a company called Spotify on the model. And the maturity we started with one product because there were traction here. There was, there was how I can say that when there is a wish, a will, there is a direction, so that we have gone into that direction, and we started with that, and we learned, and we failed. We fixed, we learn, we fail again, but faster. So the culture shift starts with the explaining the mindset that failures are first acceptable. I think this is the most important one. Then delivery, delivery, delivery. Going fast, moving. This is another key concept of moving to agile. So yes, it's not an easy question because we have not finished the journey. But basically, learning, failing, improving. This is the way we are.
So I would say that some are still not convinced that's the right things to do, for sure. But the main part now is convinced and is in. So for us, Agile came like over the night. The CEO said, we need to go to Agile. Okay, let's go to Agile. What is Agile? So it was like this. So a lot of people were excited. Oh yes, it's so great. It's years that I'm saying that we should do that. And others that, oh no, I like the way I'm doing stuff, so don't change. Okay, so we said, no choice. It is coming from the big boss, so we need to do it. So some just do the painting like this. We are now agile and change nothing in the process. Said, okay. And some say, we change everything, and they change everything. So now with time, we can prove the value to others, and it's coming together.
Yeah, there are several levels of maturity. So the full agiles, and especially on new products, and the one with the painting, what I call the slide agile, because they have the first reaction is to put painting, but after they have moved in two directions, but we know they cannot be fully agile. So, but they are improving and they are delivering faster, even if it's not perfect. But
I think that
the most important is changing the mindset to go that way. Then on the result, that's another stuff.
Any other questions? Great.
Thank you.
Stefan, Thomas, thank you very, very much. Appreciate it. Emma's got a small gift for you as well down there.
Thank you.
So I can guarantee you that we'll be back up on stage in a few months' time, or maybe in 6 months' time, telling you about how the POC went. And if it doesn't go well, they won't be back up on stage. But I can guarantee you they'll be back up on stage. So look, thank you, gentlemen. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure working with you over the last few years. So we're at a coffee break, which is good because I really need a coffee. I'm sure everyone else in the room does as well. So I think we've got 30 minutes, Emma. Yeah, so we'll be back at, if I can read my clock right, I think 11 o'clock. And we'll have our last two presenters of the day or the week. But yeah, go and enjoy yourself, have a coffee, emails, phones, and I'll see you back in half an hour. Thank you very much.